Hello. Wow. How are you doing? Wherever you are, it's good to be here once again to just take you through some past papers. As you plan to write IGCSE Geography Paper 1 on Wednesday, that's 4th of May. Yes. Like I said in the last video I did, when I treated weather and climate and coast, and I observed the trends from the way questions are set by IGCSE. So a repeat set of topics for the odd years, while for the even years, another set of topics are repeated. It is, by this, I'm not saying that automatically that is what's going to happen this year, but it will guide you in your study. So this is a question on development. Study figure 7, a map showing the Human Development Index. Okay, so let's just go through the inserts. So there's an insert here on that. So based on this, they want us to rank those countries. So the very highs, Canada should be the first, followed by China, then Brazil. No, Canada, Brazil, China, then Sudan, according to this. So the first should be Canada, second should be China, the second is Brazil, because going back, China is medium, so the second is Brazil, and the third is China, and the fourth is Sudan. That's just a one-mark question. Describe the main differences between HDI of North America and South America. So we'll go back and look at it. So North America, this is North America here. They are comprised of Canada, US, Mexico. So basically North America, we have most of them are very high. 3 countries and 2 are very high. So most of them are very high. While in South America, few countries, fewer number, as in only Argentina. Argentina is here. It's very high. Another point you can see is that in South America, there are more high development than North America, like Brazil and Colombia, Venezuela, these other countries here, about 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 other countries with Brazil are high, not very high. So, why in North America, only Mexico is high? So that's another difference you can mention. The another one you can see is that South America has more medium than North America. I don't think North America has any medium at all. This country here I think it's part of South America. Try to remember what this country is. So you can see that all the mediums are in South America. Why North America does not have any? So that will be 3 points, 3 marks. So it's even 2 marks. So just give 2 or more points. Explain why HDI is a good measure of development. Because HDI is a composite factor. It uses composite factors. What is a composite factor? A composite factor is like a factor that has a mixture, a blend of other things. A blend of other. So it's a composite factor. It's not just considering just one thing. It's not just considering maybe GMP per capita only. It's considering GMP per capita. It's considering literacy level. It's considering life expectancy as well. So it considers other factors other than GMP per capita. e.g., literacy level. Literacy level is the amount of adults that can read and write in a country. So the higher they are, the more a country develops. So it looks at that. Then it looks at life expectancy. This is the amount of life expectancy is how old people are expected to be in a country. They consider that also. Okay. Then, so literacy level, life expectancy, GMP per capita, those three things are the basic indices that are used for the composite indicator for AGI. AGI simply means Human Development Index. And another point you can say is that it is able to compare developments across countries. So we're able to rank from one country to another. You can put all the countries of the world into a table, and you rank them with a figure of 0 to 1. So 0 is this. No country is actually on 0, but the most developed country is, if you have 1, it means you are developed, you are perfectly developed, but there's nothing like that. So the higher you are, the closer you are to 1, the more developed you are. Like presently now, the most developed country is Norway, and on the development index, I think it's around 0.9 something, 0.99. Why, some poor countries are on 0.4, 0.5. Okay, so HDI is a composite factor. Consider that factor other than GDP. So it compares. Average results are always the best results. Anytime you use average results, it gives you a very good result, because you are not just judging with one factor. You have considered several factors, find the average. Okay, explain why there are differences in level of development between countries. I'll just list the points quickly, which you can develop. Number 1, you can talk about climate. Some climates are, like hot temperature. Some places are hot and either hot, cold, or dry. So the bad climate does not encourage good thinking, because when you are healthy, you can think. So it is believed that the temperate climate has the best climate for thinking, where temperature is averagely 16 degrees Celsius. So they believe is the perfect temperature for good reasoning. So like in the tropics now is much hotter. So it is believed that because of the hotness in the tropics, it affects reasoning, it affects reading. And that's, if people are not thinking positively, it might be very difficult to bring developments. So climate, temperatures at 16 degrees is good for 16 degrees is good for reasoning. That may be debatable, but it's a belief. Another thing, you can talk about landlocked countries. landlocked countries. Landlocked countries are countries that don't have access to sea or ocean. So these countries can't import or export. They need to use the ports of other countries. And that is going to slow them down. It's going to slow down their development. Because they have to be paying more. They have to be paying more because they are borrowing the port of other countries. So they are paying more. So when the country is landlocked, it's going to be a disadvantage when it comes to development. Because having access to sea is, it makes you to be very active in international trade. So you are bringing in things, you are selling, you are sending out and all of that. So another point you can talk about is we can talk about the political instability. Let me call it political stability. Some countries have good government, good governance. You can explain it anyway. So when a country has good governance, it encourages development. Yes, it encourages development. Vice versa. When a country does not have good governance, in which the lot of money are being embezzled, the funds that are supposed to be used to provide infrastructures, government is supposed to build roads, build rails, provide electricity, do this, do that. Those things will bring development. When there is electricity, industries are going to produce at cheaper costs, and that's going to lead to mass production, and that could lead to mass exports that will bring more revenue to the country. But because there is no electricity, industries are struggling. They have to spend so much on power, and this is going to slow them down, and it's going to slow down developments. So another point you can say here is, availability of skilled labor. When I say skilled labor, I mean a country that has highly skilled workforce. That doesn't mean that some countries don't have skilled labor workforce, but you look at the atmosphere. In some countries, most of their skilled labor force migrates. You can link this to the political stability. They migrate to other climes where they can easily make use of their intelligence and all of that to earn good income for themselves, and they contribute to the development of those places. So they leave their own area and go somewhere else. So that affects development as well. So when you talk about skilled labor force, that means good educational facilities is a factor as well. Good educational facilities. Then you can talk about, there are many other things you can bring in. I've talked about stability. You can talk about the cultural values. This you can link it to government political stability. So cultural value, talk about the issue of corruption here and there, and so on and so forth. So there are many other points that can be brought in here. Anything that brings disparity in development. Why is Nigeria not developed as US? Or some of the points here are reasons why. The amount of literacy in the country too determines amount of industries. Talk about amount of industries. Then you can also talk about amount of, apart from industries. Oh, there's a point I'm trying to remember now. But these are more than enough. These are more than enough. There's a point I'm trying to remember. So let me just move to the next question. Show indicator of development for selected countries. Identify which country has the lowest percentage of people who can read and write. You know, lowest percentage of people who can read and write. So come here, adult literacy, 43, Ethiopia. So the answer here should be Ethiopia. It's likely to have the poorest access to a doctor. Number of doctors per 1,000. Come in. Tanzania, imagine they have just two to 200,000. That's bad. Has the lowest energy use per person. Lowest energy use per person. So this is energy use per person here. That should be Ethiopia, 299. Okay. So 299. I'm not writing that. I want to be as fast as I could. Don't want to make the video too long. Now, which country listed in figure 8 do you consider has the highest level of development? Justify your answer. Now, if you look at it, you can, if I pick Egypt, the two answers you can pick are Egypt and South Africa. Because if you look at Egypt has the highest life expectancy here at 73 and doesn't have the highest energy use. South Africa has the highest energy use, but it has the highest number of doctors per 1,000. So, and it's, okay, fine. And it doesn't have the, okay, it doesn't have the highest adult literacy, it's just 58. So if we pick Egypt, you can say that Egypt has life expectancy of 73, meaning that people are living longer. The country with the highest number of people living longer in Africa is Egypt. And also, it has number of doctors per 1,000, highest number of doctors per 1,000, meaning that more people, most people in, I mean, Egypt is a country that has highest number of people with access to good medical care in Africa. So those are your justifications. Just explain it like that, because they have the highest life expectancy and the highest number of people per doctor. Those are the 2 points. Just explain them. Then if it is South Africa I'm picking, I can say that in South Africa, it has the highest energy use per person at 2587. Quote that figure, please. 2587, meaning that South Africa is the country with the highest access to, a country with the highest number of people with household appliances and other gadgets that make life easy. So we have more people there using it. When you talk about energy use, just imagine a typical home having a dishwasher, wash machine, fan, lot of fans, ACs, home theaters, lot of appliances. So they use more energy, access to more electricity and all of that in Africa. Then also adult literacy, 87. So they have most number of educated adults in Africa. Those are your justifications. So they are the most educated country in Africa. Put it like that, and you'll be fine. Okay, thank you. Now, for a country you have studied, describe the positive and negative impact of a name transnational corporation located there. Transnational corporations are organizations that have, they have access in every country, they have access in many other countries in the world, like multinationals. Examples like Chevron, like Shell, Chevron in the oil sector. Talk about McDonald's, talk about KFC, talk about Walmart, Nike, Techno, talk about in the phone industry, Apple, Microsoft, transnational. They have a headquarter somewhere and they have many other branches elsewhere, other countries of the world. So now the question says, describe the positive and negative. It's a 7-mark question, case study. So mention a country. So for me now, I'll mention, I'm in Nigeria, I live in Nigeria. So let me just mention Shell Oil Company. Just call it, I think his name is Royal Dutch Royal.shell. Oh, sorry, this should be, okay, let me just, okay. Then country, Nigeria. Normally, in case study, they will give you 1 mark for mentioning a country. Now that you have 2 countries, it might be 2 marks. I have not checked in the mark scheme, but it could be 2 marks if you get it right. Then start your story. It's a company. I'm not writing everything. I just want to show you an introduction. It's a company headquarters in US. Headquartered in US and branches everywhere, including Nigeria. So some of the benefits, don't tell too much story in the introduction, but you need to introduce. It's a company headquartered in US, and they don't, no mark for introduction, but it helps your flow. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. It helps your flow. Most students like to start with some preambles before you now get into the main. So it's a company headquartered in US, for our branches several places. You know, they are into oil. Just say that in introduction. Mainly into oil. So some of their benefits is that they create jobs. They create jobs for many Nigerians. Create jobs for many Nigerians, which help them to be able to, which helps them to be able to make, you know, make a decent living. Pay school fees. You can add some of those stories, but it's a continuous writing kind of. Very decent living, pay school fees, you know, have a home, raise children, buy gadgets, use cars. Just a little of that. I'm not saying you should talk too much into it, but when people have jobs, what's the benefit of having jobs? You're able to earn a living, you're able to do this, do that. So another point is that they raise a lot of revenue for government. You know, most government spending in Nigeria is based on the proceeds from crude oil, which they have gotten from which has been sold. You know, NNPC, there's NNPC that controls activities of oil business in Nigeria, but they work together with Shell and other oil miners. So they raise revenue for government to build infrastructures. Infrastructures which encourage further development. So it encourages further development. Another point you can say is that, okay, I've mentioned 2 here. So let me go to the problems. You can have maybe 3 benefits and 3 problems. But the other benefit you can talk about is, you know, they pay scholarships, they give grants, educational grants to many students in Nigeria. Many students in Nigeria, they give grants to a lot of students, especially students from that region where the oil is being mined. So they give educational grants to many of them. Another point you can mention is that they contribute to local development of those places. Apart from, you know, raising money for government, which is used for national development, they also do some local development. They build schools in some localities. They build hospitals, pay school fees, give scholarships, and all of that. Now, talking about the problems, one major problem we can talk about is pollution. They pollute. Don't just go into it like that. You can start with another preambles. However, there are many ways they cause problems. They cause problems for Nigerians. So it now starts. So the activities pollute the environment, e.g., water pollution, land pollution, air pollution. So they pollute the environment through oil spillage. And is the environment, to please don't make mistake of. So they pollute the environment through oil spillage. And also you can talk about the problem of that pollution. So many localities can't have access to good. Many localities can't have access to good water supply because their source of water has been polluted, which is a river. You know, many villages around there, they use rivers for their source of water supply, and many of those rivers are polluted. So they have issues now. So that is one. Then many people are out of jobs. Farmers, fishermen are out of jobs because of pollution. Because a lot of fish die. Then land become infertile. That's another problem. You know, this is a lingering problem in Niger Delta. So if you write it, they can easily Google it. So because of that, then you can talk about cases of kidnapping and youth unrest in the Niger Delta. Niger Delta. So several youths get agitated and go after some of these expatriates working in Shell, kidnapping them. So that leads to high crime rates in the area. So when they kidnap, they demand for ransom. And when those ransom are met, they release those people. So that has happened several times. You know, it's like it has encouraged criminal activities. People just go and, you know, kidnap somebody and demand for ransom and all of that. So if you say all of that, you'll be fine. I believe I've done justice to that. So any other idea you have, you can add to it and make it a lovely 7-mark question. Now, let me just quickly treat this. Study figure 9, which shows information about economic activities and a threat to natural environment. So what is meant by visual pollution? It's a 1-mark question. It simply means, you know, something that pollutes, that is not good to the eye, to visual, to seeing. For example, something that blurs visibility. It blurs visibility. It affects vision. For example, now if everywhere is dusty, maybe due to some mining activities, and everywhere becomes so dusty, that's visual pollution. So there's 2 ways in which agriculture may cause soil erosion. Yeah. So how? Number 1, you can talk about there might be, as land is being cultivated, It leads to deforestation. And deforestation is removal of trees. So for you to farm in a place, you need to clear the area, clear all the forest. And those vegetations you have cleared, they help the soil to be firm. They hold the root of the soil together. I mean, they use their root to hold the sand firmly. So in this case now, the soil is exposed. The soil is exposed. So it's exposed to soil erosion. So the soil is exposed and can be, that's right, the soil is exposed and can be blown away. Can be blown away or washed away. By runoff. Runoff is the water that moves. Now, when it rains, that water you see rolling on the land is a runoff. So deforestation, the soil is exposed. It makes the soil exposed, and it's washed away. And also, I think another point we can talk about is overcultivation. Overcultivation. So, you know, when you have overcultivated the land becomes infertile. And if it's become infertile, less grasses are growing. And that will lead to what? Erosion. Erosion happens when the soil is bare. And those are reasons why the soil can be bare. Name 3 different economic activities shown in figure 9 and explain how each may pollute water. So economic activity is anything done to earn income. So manufacturing industry is one. Manufacturing industries can pollute water when wastes are poured into the rivers. So that is how you explain that waste can be poured into rivers. Industrial waste. And when you pour it into the river, it destroys, it kills, you know, it reduces the amount of oxygen in it, killing the fish and other things. Okay. Talk about agriculture, use of fertilizers. Use of fertilizers, you know, use of fertilizers can cause, many of them will be washed into the rivers and they are chemicals. So when they are washed into the rivers, they pollute, they contaminate the rivers. Those fertilizers contaminate the rivers and might make the river unused for the villagers and people that live around that area. Another point here is talk about transport. How does transport affect use of water? Okay, I think the use of trucks. Transportation, I'm trying to think. Transport, how does it affect use of water? I think basically it can cause, okay, it can make it to be, well, what comes to my mind now is that perhaps there is a spillage. You know, maybe there is an accident and it pours. What is being carried can fall into the rivers and contaminate it. Maybe a truck just turns into river. All of that. They're talking about power stations. They use water as coolant. They use water as coolant, and in the process, certain chemicals will mix into it. Well, transportation, I'm thinking that global warming, because they release carbon emission. So CO2 be released into the atmosphere, and global warming can stop rain. Global warming can lead to desertification, and that will limit rain. Yes, so that is the basic way I think it affects the use of water, or that the way it affects water. So transportation lead to release of carbon 2 oxides, carbon 4 oxides and carbon 2 oxides, which cause global warming that prevent rain. Okay. Explain how economic activities shown in figure 9 may cause global warming. It's a formal question, so you just have to be brief. Manufacturing industry release carbon dioxide. So they release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and that causes global warming. Agriculture, I just talked about fertilizers. Those fertilizers are aerosols. They can see ammonia, ammonium chloride, and all of that. Those are the content of fertilizers. Many of those things affect ozone layer. You know, some of them they will find their way back into the space and add up to the major threats there. Then also deforestation. When you clear the land, you have reduced the amount of forest that can trap oxygen. I mean, that can trap carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Transportation, I've mentioned that. CO2 emission and all of that. Power stations. Some power stations, they may not release CO2 depending on what they use. If they are using coal, it will release CO2. If they are using any fuel, it will release CO2. But also in building it, you have to clear the land. So deforestation is a major problem to global warming. So when you clear the forest, you have contributed to global warming. Study figure 10, which shows advice about conservation of natural resources: reduce, reuse, recycle. Explain how following the advice given in figure 10 can help to conserve natural resources. So when you recycle, you are making it to be useful several times. You are using something many times. Like this is a water bottle. Now this water bottle, I've been using it for more than 2 years, you know, and I'm still using it. So if I have thrown this away, this would have become a plastic pollution somewhere. And perhaps in that 2 years, I've bought like 4. So I've thrown 3 away. So imagine if 1 million people do that every year. I mean, every year, every 6 months. So you can imagine the amount of plastics that we will have out there as litters. And that is plastic pollution is one of the major threats in the world at the moment. Plastics don't break down easily. They are non-biodegradable. They don't break down. This plastic here will not break down in the next 1,000 years, except you melt it and you turn it to something else. It's just going to be there in the environment, occupying space and releasing some substances. Then reduce. So we should try to reduce. In a situation whereby we can reduce the energy. The world might have an energy crisis very soon because of the demand for energy. Population has grown, so the demand for energy has grown as well. So there is need to reduce. And in this case, if you are not, for example, you are in a room, you have like 4 AC, and you have like 5 fans and everything. You don't have to on everything at the same time. But the truth of the matter is you don't need everything. Maybe when it is so hot, that is when you need to on everything. But when the weather is okay, maybe just having 1 AC on and 1 fan is good. That is reduce. You need to reduce. So this will help to make the energy last longer. It will help to make it last longer. There will be, it will be sustainably used. For example, some of the trees we use in making paper, some of them are becoming extinct. The rate of cutting trees is more than the rate of planting. So there's need to reduce the paper we use. So people have been thinking of digitalization, go digital, more laptops, more typing work, Instead of writing on paper, let's type on laptops and all of that. But somebody might say, but that will increase plastics. Yeah, but it is more durable than paper. You know, you can type something and keep using it for years. But most people don't keep their books for years. Most students don't do that. So the reuse, of course, reuse. In the course of recycling, you are reusing. Like me now, what I do with this is I reuse it. I think that my illustration fits more with reuse. But recycle in the sense that maybe it has to melt it and still use it again for another thing. That is what recycle is. So recycle is like, you know, some people go around picking plastics and take it to a factory where those things are going to be melted and be used to make another plastic. That is recycle. But reuse is when you keep using it. Don't throw your laptop away because it has a fault. Go and fix it and keep using it. Keep fixing it as long as it's still good. So you have the money, but you don't have to buy another one to reduce plastic pollution. Explain the importance of conserving natural resources and the natural environment. The importance, I believe, is common sense. Number one, it helps to keep those things renewed. It keeps them, it allows the generation coming to meet some of those things so that they will not know about it. So the generations coming they will hear about it and they will know about it. Then number two, it's important because we need to manage the use of our. So another thing is for future use. I've said that. Then it helps us to think on how to make use of the waste product as well. The waste product can be useful, you know. So when we are conserving, we are able to make use of the waste product. Then it saves time and it saves costs. All of that. So let me go to this last question. For any country or area you have studied, describe how energy is supplied. Well, you can talk about Nigeria. In Nigeria, we use hydroelectric power. We use thermal stations. You know, those are the two major ways. Hydroelectric power. We have a Kainji Dam. The river Niger is dammed in Kainji. Kainji is in Niger State, Nigeria. So the damming is what generates electricity. So turbines, there's a turbine, you put it to the dam and it's rolled. You can watch a video on that or what a turbine is. So that is what you see here. They talk about thermal stations. We have thermal stations across the country too. One is in Egni, in Lagos, and Kaduna, Shiroro, all of those places. So you mentioned those names because it's a case studies. So that is how energies are generated. Well, you can mention another country. Maybe in that country, you talk about the use of tidal waves, wave energy and all of that. Talk about coal. I think in America, coal is used to generate energy and all of that. So basically that is it, 7 mark. Make sure you discuss it well and add other points. So I'll be ending it here. Thank you very much for listening to this. Bye-bye.